Hello, and thank you for joining me today for Real Estate News and Review. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker with affordable homes and apartments. And I'm licensed to preach and ordained as a minister, and I have my PhD in sacred biblical studies. And I'm licensed to preach. I said that. Today I want to talk to you. Buy a home with your Section 8 homeownership voucher. Okay, buy a home with your Section 8 homeownership voucher. And there's a picture of it on the screen, and you can get it that website that's listed right there, my website. So available in ebook as well as in print on Amazon Kindle, Barnes and Nobles. And you go to my website and it'll take you directly to where you can get it as a immediate download. Now, what I've done was I've separated the books into regions. There are 10 regions. Okay, and I want to talk about region number 2 because I'm licensed in one of those states, New York and New Jersey. I'm licensed in New York. Soon I'll be licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So I have licenses in 3 states. Okay, but why I separated them into regions was because each state offers different types of assistance. Okay, and this is assistance that you can take advantage of pretty much right now. Okay, in terms of owning your home with a Section 8 homeownership voucher. Now, just to be clear, okay, there was one person that was very confused and had asked me, okay, now there's a housing choice voucher and then there's a home ownership voucher. Okay, now the housing choice voucher, also known as HCV, they are usually abbreviated. That particular voucher is to help you subsidize your rent. Okay, usually you as the tenant would pay a general rule of thumb, not straight across the board, 30% of whatever the rent is. Sometimes landlords would prefer to have the entire rent covered by the voucher. Okay, but generally the tenant will pay no more than 30%. So if your rent is $1,000, and the Section 8 would pay $700, and you would then have to be obligated to pay the other $300 out of your pocket. Okay, now that's the housing choice voucher. Now a home ownership voucher is a voucher that will allow you to purchase a home and have your mortgage subsidized. Generally, again, the same percentage applies. Generally, it's 30% that you, as the homeowner now, would pay for the mortgage. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You could buy a house with your Section 8 homeownership voucher, and you could actually have your percentage of your mortgage paid for by Section 8. Isn't that a wonderful thing? It's wonderful. It's an opportunity for low to middle income individuals to own a home, and then you still won't have to worry about going under because your portion of your rent, your mortgage, will be paid still by Section 8. Okay, now there are educational classes that you are obligated to take prior to it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a series of things that have to happen, especially if your credit is bad. Okay, if your credit is bad, we as Affordable Homes, we offer I offer financial management workshops and a series of other workshops. Okay, I offer budget, debt, and credit workshops and a series of other workshops and seminars. Okay, some are group sessions, some are individual sessions. And this is to help you, okay, and I talk about some of this in the book, okay. There are educational workshops that you're required to take, okay, help you along the way. I offer an intimate perspective because as a real estate broker, you know, I would be the one that would be selling you the house. I would locate the home for you, and I would be selling you the house. So yes, I represent you in the sale, and I would love to be able to, you know, help you along the way. I have books, not just a book that I've written, but I have books that I've received that talk about mortgages, that talk about buying a home, and there's websites that I direct you to in my book. Now, in this particular book, it's still the same title: Buy a Home with your Section 8 homeownership voucher. Okay, and I talk about the New Jersey Homeownership Voucher Program, and I talk about the New York Homeownership Voucher Program, and I talk of entire as many cities and counties that I can include that offer Section 8 homeownership voucher. Now, some states do not offer, and they're not obligated to offer. They don't have to. Okay, if you're in West Bottleneck somewhere, and you contacted them and they said they don't offer it, maybe they don't know what it is, and they do offer it. Okay, well, I give you direct links, phone numbers, websites, emails, addresses, and contact information to the person, the specific person that you need to contact in order to find out, to get information as to whether this particular county, whether this, whether they offer it in the state or the city that you live in. Okay, cities and states are adopting it now. It's spreading. You know what I mean? It's like places that didn't offer it or that don't offer it today are getting on the bandwagon. They're starting to offer it. They're applying for it, and they have to get organized. They have to follow the rules, and then once they've followed all the rules, now they can accept housing choice vouchers. Remember what I told you what a housing choice voucher is. Okay, now in order to qualify to buy a home, which is Section 8 homeownership voucher, you have to be on Section 8 for at least a year. Okay, so that means you have to, so any apartment that I rent you, any house that I rent you, and let's say you just got Section 8 or whatever, if I rent you a house, I'm going to be hopefully expecting for you to purchase that house at the end of that year. Okay, if you don't purchase that house, then I'll be expecting for you to be in a position within the 12 months, not necessarily, I don't know, 12 months. It could be 6 months down the line. It could be 9 months. It depends on how serious you are in terms of owning your own home. Okay, and you own your own home, and then you pay 30% of the mortgage. Okay, now if you need help with expenses, this is one of the programs that can help you. Okay, it's a homeownership voucher program, Section 8 homeownership voucher program. Okay, and now homeownership assistance offers a new option for families that receive Section 8 tenant-based assistance. As with the other special housing types, HUD, Housing Urban Development, does not provide any additional or separate funding for homeownership assistance under Section 8. In general, a public housing agency that administers Section 8, okay, tenant-based assistance has the choice whether to offer homeownership assistance as an option for qualified applicants and participants in the PHA's Housing Choice Voucher Program. Remember, I told you this they're not obligated to do this, okay? But also remember too that you can take that Section 8 voucher anywhere in the world. If you have a Section 8 voucher in Hawaii, I do believe, and you might want to ask, okay, just to confirm, I do believe that you can move to Wyoming, or somewhere that offers Section 8, and get you an apartment or a house in that state, and then start that process in terms of getting getting your home ownership voucher. Now you have to get education. There's counseling that you're going to need. And once you complete all of the necessary things that they're going to talk about housing, purchasing a home, and they're also going to talk about how to stay out of foreclosure. Now you wonder, why would I be wanting to learn about how to stay out of foreclosure when I'm purchasing a home? Well, you would be surprised, honey, at the number of families who face foreclosure because they don't know. Now my slogan for my business, for affordable homes and apartments, is an educated consumer is my best customer. I heard that somewhere before. I don't know where I heard that. But I'm adopting it as my slogan. That's one of my slogans. An educated consumer is my best customer. Okay? The more you know, okay, the more educated you are, the more knowledgeable you are on the housing issues, the housing matter that you want to pursue, the better you are at getting a home of your own. And, you'll find a lot of that, in mortgage companies. That's why it's so important to be educated. Because, you study, in internet, digital technology is the most wonderful thing. And I thank God that, we had a dreamer that had a vision to create the internet. And that it materialized, and now we're able to use it. Because the internet wasn't always around. I believe internet began in the year 2000, or somewhere around there, 2000-ish. Okay, and in 1980, 1990, there was no internet. We didn't have no cell phones. Okay, we had to do it manually. We had to, these feet are made for walking, and that's just what they did. Okay, you had to dial. You know how them dialers we did have push button phones after a while. But then remember them dialing phones where you got, yeah, you know, thank God it wasn't an emergency, you know. I mean, 911, 9 was the longest number, 9, and then 1, you know, you good with that. But then there was push button phones, you know, and then we didn't have caller ID, you know, so you had people that was calling you, you didn't know who you was calling, then you had to pay for that. So technology is a wonderful thing. It allows us to be able to do things at our fingertips now. You know, but let our fingers do the walking rather than our feet. Okay, but when we can study, you can look up things, you can find out things, you can get information, for example, about, I call it the assessed value. See, there's a language, a real estate language that you probably won't know about. Until you study it, until you take the class. You got to take the class. But when you take a class with me, it's going to teach you more than just the basics of what you need to know in terms of being able to buy a house. You're going to be smart. See, because you're going to walk into that bank and you say, are you a HUD-approved mortgagee? You know, and I remember the first time I walked into a bank, not the first time, but when I took one of my customers into a bank with me, I said, are you a HUD-approved mortgagee? And I said, are you an approved mortgagee? And they're like, excuse me? You know. So I'm like, okay, so he went and got his manager and whatnot, and he didn't know what I was talking about. Okay, I do not like that. That didn't sit too well with me. You know, so I suggested, I said, well, hey, you know, my customer, I said, you can get a loan from this bank if you'd like to. I said, but it's up to you. I said, I wouldn't suggest. Okay, because, yeah, loan officers that don't even know whether they're an approved mortgagee or not. You know, he's got to go ask somebody. So, you know, I don't like that. You know, I don't like, that's why I say an educated consumer is my best customer. If you know about real estate, then you'll know, if you have an idea, if you read it somewhere, even if you have the book in front of you, and somebody says something to you and you don't know, I'm going to open up this book. Oh yeah, here it is. You know, and now I got the information I need. On your phone. You know, you just look on your phone. You know, oh, there it is, I found it. You know. Or you can always call up Affordable Homes and Apartments and ask us if you're our customer. If we're going to be the one that's selling you the house, we want to make sure that you get a house that's priced right. And of course, when you're dealing with the government, there's going to be no overappraisal. Okay, if the house is $80,000, that's what the house is worth, $80,000. Okay, if an appraiser is paid to assess the value at more than that, the mortgage company that the government assigns is not going to give you more than what the house is actually assessed at. Because sometimes they will assign their own appraisers to assess the value of the house. And then you can also look on the internet and you can find out what the house was appraised for years ago. How much did it sell for 5, 10 years ago? How much did it sell for last year? You know, how much is it worth now? You see what I'm saying? All of these things are available right at our fingertips if we just make use of it. If you're serious about owning a home, if you want something that you can call your own, and you probably, some people are probably saying, well, hey, you know, I'm only paying like 30% of my rent. If I got a problem, all I got to do is call the landlord and let them come fix it. Yeah, but will the landlord come fix it? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. It depends on if you're dealing with a slumlord or not. Okay? And they might come and fix it and they might not. But if you own the home of your own, you can fix that house up any way you want to. You can make that basement, you know, you can party out in that basement every night and day if you want to. Put your bar down there. You see, if that's your thing. Me, I'd probably put a church down there or something, you know. You know what I mean? And then, see, I always got to have a house with an attic and a basement. Buffalo was the first place that I ever came to that there was no basement. I couldn't believe it. And in New York City, they always, when you rent an apartment, they always had a stove and refrigerator always included. Even in New Jersey, always a stove and refrigerator was included. How are you supposed to rent an apartment if you don't have a stove and refrigerator? Those are the basic things. Buffalo, I come out here, they don't have no stove. You got to get your own stove and refrigerator. So that was a turnoff for me as well. But the Section 8 program is universal. Most people, or most states offer it. Okay, and those states that offer it, I have written in the book. I'm going to have 10 books altogether, and they're going to be by regions, okay? And Region 2 is what's going to be published first, and that's New York and New Jersey. Okay, now as required by law, the home ownership option is not available for units receiving Section 8 project-based assistance By law, home ownership under Section 8 may only be provided for families receiving tenant-based assistance. That means if you're paying rent, if you got your housing choice voucher, then you can qualify. It's not guaranteed that you're going to qualify, okay, because you have to go through the steps and you have to complete the steps. You have to get that certificate at the end of the training and all of the other things that are necessary. Okay, it's just almost just as strict as it was when you first applied for the Section 8. And all the paperwork that you had to supply and all of the things that you had to go through in order to get that Section 8, the time that you waited, the paperwork that you had to supply, the income that you had, all of the information that you had to conform to. You know, it's pretty much, it's very rigid in terms of the way they do things here as well. Okay. Now the voucher program is both for home buyers and for renters, administered through your local public housing agencies. To be accepted into the Homeownership Voucher Program, you need to be referred by a local PHA. So that means that some people live in a Section 8 based apartment that where the actual building itself is Section 8. The whole building is like subsidized. And you don't need a Section 8 voucher to live there. Well, you have to have a Section 8 voucher to qualify. So that particular living arrangement would not qualify you. It may not qualify you for the Section 8, but I'm almost sure 90% that you have to have a Section 8 housing choice voucher in order to qualify for the home ownership voucher. Now you might go into an apartment building or or a house, or just say an apartment building where you only can get your rent subsidized if you have that piece of paper. Okay, now that would entitle you, which is a housing choice voucher, that will also entitle you, yes, to qualify for a home ownership voucher once you've completed the steps necessary. Okay, an overview of how the Section 8 home ownership program works is as follows. The details regarding the operation of Section 8 home ownership option are provided elsewhere in the preamble regulatory text. Okay. Now, public housing administrations of Section 8 home ownership program differs from the tenant-based rental programs in many ways. A PHA may use a certificate and a voucher program funded already under annual contributions contract, which is what I was just talking about, or a new tenant-based Section 8 funding for rental of home ownership purposes. The PHA may opt to limit the number of Section 8 home ownership vouchers or not implement the home ownership option. There's no separate or additional funding for the home ownership program. Okay, and I believe one of the reasons why you have to be referred by them is because, first of all, did you have any problems paying your 30% of the rent? Okay, were you a good tenant? Did you follow the rules? Did you do what you were supposed to do as a tenant? Okay, there's things of that nature, because if you did the right thing, then you'll be a good candidate for a home to buy a home with your Section 8 home ownership voucher. Okay, generally PHA that administers Section 8 tenant-based assistance has the choice whether to offer the home ownership option. However, a PHA that elects to provide home ownership assistance must have the capacity to operate a successful Section 8 home ownership program. The PHA has the required capacity if it establishes a minimum homeowner down payment requirement of at least 3% of the purchase price for participation in its Section 8 home ownership program, and requires that at least 1% of the purchase price come from the family's personal resources. See, they already know about your personal resources and your financial stability, and you as a tenant, whether you're a viable tenant or not. But a lot of people live in these apartments and they don't think that's it. They think that there's nothing else, that's all she wrote. But that's not true. Okay, that's why it's essential that you do the right thing while you're living in these PHAs, paying your portion of the rent on time. Of course, there are slumlords and management companies that manage some PHAs that don't do such a good job as well, and some do an excellent job. So you have to be careful in terms of where you move. You're going to have to remember, one of the most important things that we're given is the ability to make a choice. You make a choice as to where you want to live. You don't just move in there because they offer Section 8, but a lot of people do. A lot of people are desperate. They need a place to go for one reason or another, either because you're getting put out of that place, or because the landlord is selling the house or something, or some kind of an emergency situation that you find yourself caught up into, the way you got to move right away and you don't have a choice, well, that's going to also limit your ability to purchase a home with the Section 8 homeownership voucher. That might be one of the questions that you want to ask when you're signing those papers. Do you offer a homeownership voucher as well? Okay? You know, they might look at you like you got lobsters coming out your ears. And then if they do, and if homeownership is very important to you, and they don't know anything about it, then you can choose to say, hey, I'll rent the place anyway, or get up, brush yourself off and whatnot, and fix yourself up and turn around and walk out the door. Put one foot in front of the other. Okay? Now, you know, the homeownership housing assistance payment will equal the lower of 1% of 1. The payment standard minus the total tenant payment, or 2, the monthly homeownership expenses minus the total tenant payment. The family is responsible for the monthly homeownership expenses not reimbursed by the housing assistance payment. Total tenant payment is higher than the minimum rent. 10% of monthly income, 30% of monthly adjusted income, or the welfare rent. The PHA must use the utility allowance schedule and payment standard schedules applicable to the Section 8 voucher rental program. Now remember, all of these PHAs who accept housing choice vouchers do not necessarily, and they're not obligated to offer the homeownership voucher program. That's why they may not know anything about what you're talking about. And unless you want to waste 12 months of living there and not have the opportunity to own a home at the end of those 12 months, you're going to be, you know, SOL, as they say. Okay, now except for the elderly or disabled families, Section 8 homeownership assistance may only be paid for the maximum of 15 years if the initial mortgage incurred to finance purchase of the home has a term that is 20 years or longer. Usually mortgages are 30 years. In all cases, the maximum term of homeownership assistance is 10 years. Okay, so that means after 10 years, yeah. Okay, but by then you should be established. Okay, and of course the rules vary. You know, the rules may vary. Okay, so, you know, it's very important that you know, be very vocal and open. Do you also offer Section 8 homeownership voucher? And they may look at you, like I said, like you got lobsters coming at your ears. Excuse me? Or they might just say, no, they don't. But you can find out if they do. If they say they don't and they do, then something is wrong. Okay, I know one lady, she was managing 2 different buildings. She was at one building twice a week and another building another twice a week. She wasn't managing either one of those buildings adequately. And they were both Section 8. You bring your voucher and you get in. Okay, so when we went in there, and I went in there with, you know, to help my friend out and ask some questions. He's like, who is she? I said, I'm a friend. I'm also a real estate broker. I'm here to help him. You know, and I said, do you offer Section 8 homeownership voucher? Get her out of here, you know. Oh, they don't like me, baby. They don't like me. That's why I said an educated consumer is the best customer. Because, you know, you can best believe that if the more educated that you are, the less likely you will be victim of scams, okay, predatory lendings, okay, and it's also suggested that you use a real estate broker when you buy a house too, because should you decide to find a house on your own, now I could sell you a house and whatnot, and you move into that house and the roof could collapse. See, you don't know nothing about inspecting the house, and see, that's a disadvantage as well. Okay, so it's best to be educated. It's best to be educated. A home is a lifelong investment. You want to be able to have something to leave to your kids. You want to enjoy your life. You want to live in your house. You don't have to worry about your landlord coming and trespassing on your property. Okay, when you're not there. Okay, you don't want to have to worry about if something is not fixed. How long are you going to have to wait before you have to fix? If your windows are drafty, am I going to have to put plastic up on my windows? You know what I mean? And then that doesn't necessarily defy the beauty of the house, but it also, you know, it says a lot about the landlord not coming to fix the problem. You might have a leak, you know, any number of things. You might have rodents, you know, we call them rats and roaches where I'm from, you know. It's madness. You never know what you're getting into. You know, now if you have time, see, because a lot of times when you get your housing choice voucher, you will have already waited at least a good perhaps 10 years. Okay, do you want to own a home? I think, yeah, you should be asking some questions. Or perhaps you can even ask those questions before you even, while you're on the waiting list. You know, you can find out everything you need to know. You can even take the class. You know, you could get all of this information already established. You could start getting your knowledge. And so when you take that class, you're a kind of person that's not going to take no mess from nobody. Okay? And you're going to know what you're talking about. You're going to walk in there with your head on firmly planted on your shoulders, and you're going to know what you're talking about. Okay? And one other thing, to qualify for assistance under the home ownership option, a family must meet the general requirements for admission into the PHA Section 8 tenant-based voucher program, which you probably already know if you're on Section 8. The PHA may not provide home ownership assistance for the family unless the PHA determines that the family satisfies all of the following additional requirements at the commencement of home ownership assistance for the family. Okay, and there's a lot of rules. This book is more technical than the other book. There's a book I have online now. It's a general book for all states, but it's a general book for all states, and it tells the basic information. It will so it's available now. This will be online soon, and then the other regions will also be available too. So, I'm going to ask you to holler at the sister next week, and if you have any questions, just give me a holler at 716-602-7213, the number on your screen. Check out the website on your screen, get a copy of the book as soon as you can, and see you next week. Holler at the sister. Peace out.